تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا.
For the benefit of those who do not understand my native language, the title of our khutbah today is The Evils of Gambling, a Warning from Allah. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, today I want to talk to you about a serious issue that affects many of us, either directly or indirectly. It is an issue that has been clearly condemned by Allah in the Quran and our beloved Prophet Muhammad in his hadith. And I am talking about the evil of gambling. And my brothers and sisters in Deen, let us know that gambling is from shaitan, because shaitan will direct you to only what is evil. Shaitan doesn't direct people to what is good. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Al-Fatir, chapter 35, verse 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا إنما يدعو حزبه ليكونوا من أصحاب السعير. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا. He said, certainly, or indeed, الشيطان, Satan, lakum aduwwun, is an enemy to you. Fattakhidhuhu aduwwa, so take him as an enemy. Allah is telling us that shaitan, that is the devil, the Satan, is an enemy to us, and we should take him as an enemy. Meaning, we should be very careful with him. We should avoid him at all, by all means. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. Then he said, إِنَّمَا يَدَعُ حِزْبَهُ لِيَكُونُ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. That he certainly only invites his followers to become inmates of the blaze. Meaning, his own aim only is to invite his followers, whoever follows him, whoever treats him as a friend. After Allah has told you to take him as what? As an enemy. If you take him as a friend and you become his follower, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, he invites you so that you become what? You become inmates of the hellfire. So that you become what? His colleagues in the hellfire. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. And one thing we must understand is that while we are talking about gambling, and we after quoting this verse, the message from this verse is that what? Gambling is one of the instruments of shaitan. And it is only shaitan that will direct you towards something evil. Because shaitan doesn't want you to do anything good. So if you are heading towards committing sin or doing anything evil, it is because shaitan is inviting you towards that thing. So you have to understand that every time you make efforts to go and gamble, to go and bet, or you go on your phone, you visit the betting website to bet, to stake, and so on. Every time you do it, it is shaitan that is inviting you towards it. It is shaitan that is pushing you towards it. It is shaitan that is directing you towards it. And that is why you must be very, very careful. My brothers and sisters, indeed, gambling is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited for us. What did Allah say about gambling? In Surah Al-Ma'idah chapter 5 verse 90, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, He's warning us, He's advising us, He's admonishing us. He said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. He said, O you who believe, innamal khamru wal maisiru. He said, certainly, al khamru, that is intoxicant, wal maisiru, and gambling, which is what we are talking about, wal ansab, and he said all forms of idolatry, wal azlam, and those who depend on maybe certain things to take decisions. He said, "Rijsum min amali shaitan." They are what? They are evil. They are evil of Satan's work. They are evil from the work of shaitan. He said, "What? Fajtanibuhu la'allakum tuflihun." He says, so avoid them, la'allakum tuflihun, so that you may be successful. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us. And one of the things he mentioned is gambling. He said we should be very careful. We should avoid gambling. He said avoid. Avoid, if you look at the gravity, when you try to understand the difference between avoid and abstain, you will understand that avoid is the stronger language. It means avoid completely, meaning don't even go close to what will lead you there. So Allah is warning us that we should avoid it so that we may become successful. And why did Allah say so that you may become successful? It is because those who gamble, they end up not being successful. Why? Because everything they have gathered, that they see as success, that, oh, I wanted a house, I own a house. I wanted a car, I own a car. I want money, I have money. They end up losing everything and they go back to square one. Because of what? Because they gamble. So gambling doesn't give, the benefit in gambling is very minimal. The benefit in gambling is very minimal compared to what? To the evil in gambling. Gambling is a very, 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 very bad thing to indulge yourself in, because it makes you to become desperate. You become hard-hearted. People who set up gambling or betting companies are doing it because they are hard-hearted. Those who indulge in it are doing it because they are hard-hearted. Because why will somebody set up a company to make sure that he takes from thousands of people and reward just maybe 10 of them and make other people cry? Because he doesn't care. He's not doing it to benefit you, he's doing it to benefit himself. So he doesn't care if you are betting with the last amount, the last money you have in your pocket, or the last card, or how they say it. Whatever you have left with you, even if you are betting with it, the owner of the betting company doesn't care. Even if you sell your properties to raise money to place a bet, to stake, the owner of the betting company doesn't care about that. He's not concerned. And that is why you will understand that those who set up such kind of business, there are people who are hard-hearted. And you too, if you indulge in it, you are hard-hearted. Because meaning you are also because whatever is given to you is being taken from other people. And that is why you must avoid it by all means, if you are a true believer. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned the believers in this verse that we should what? We should avoid it. He said, "Rijsum min amali shaitan." He said, what? That was one of the evils. They are evil from the work of shaitan. So fajtanibuhu la'allakum tuflihun. They should avoid it so that you may become successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also made it known to us that a shaitan threatens us with what? With poverty, which leads us to what? To immorality. And this is where gambling comes in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 268, He said, الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء والله يعدكم مغفرة منه وفضلا والله واسع عليم. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that As-Shaytan, He said certainly As-Shaytan, the devil, يَعِدُكُمُ الْفَقْرَ, he threatens you with what? With poverty. وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ, and what? He encourages you, or he commands you with what? With immorality, with what is bad. What this verse is telling us, if you look at it, so many people go into gambling or they bet because of what? Because they fear poverty. Oh, I have just maybe 1,000 naira left with me, or I have just maybe what I have is very small. Let me look for a way to multiply it. So this is what is as a result of what? The fear of poverty, that if I spend this, I don't have any other means. So let me look for a way to multiply it, to make it plenty, so that I can have a lot of money to survive on. So it is shaitan that gives you that fear that once you spend this, there is no other means for you. But that is not the case with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who told you that if you spend this, you can't get any? So long as you are not lazy, so long as you have something doing, if you go outside, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will get something. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. So shaitan threatens you with what? With poverty. And as a result of that, it makes you to what? To indulge in evil things. It makes you to indulge in immorality. And that is why you must be very careful and not allow the shaitan to deceive you or to threaten you with poverty that you end up indulging in immorality. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in that verse, He said, وَاللَّهُ يَعِدُكُمْ مَغْفِرَةً مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلًا. While shaitan is threatening you with what? With poverty and commanding you with immorality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises you what? Forgiveness and what? And bounties from Him. And He said, Wallahu wasi'un alim. That He is all-encompassing and knowing. So my brothers and sisters in Deen, let us try as much as possible to avoid betting by all means. It is shaitan making you have fear that if you don't use this money, this is what you have left. If you don't use it to multiply, there's no other way you are going to survive. Who told you there's no other way you are going to survive? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that created you. And He has also created what you are going to eat. Everything you are going to eat is available. The day whatever the provision Allah has made available, the day it finishes, the day Allah has finished with whatever the day He ends the provision He's going to give, that is the day you leave this world. So why are you scared? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. The Prophet ﷺ also, he warned us about gambling in a hadith. He said, من لعب بالنردشير فكأنما غمس يده في لحم خنزير ودمه. He said, whoever plays, that is like plays, he dies. That's the simplest English for it. Whoever plays dies or rolls dice, meaning with the intention of betting. That is, you are gambling with it, rolling the dice with the intention to gamble. He said what? He said it is like what? He dips his hand, he sinks his hand into the flesh of the swine and its blood. Meaning it is like you are dipping your hand into the flesh of the pig and the blood. So it is what the Prophet ﷺ is telling us in this hadith is that what? Gambling is a very dirty thing. And for you to know the evil of gambling, when it comes to alcohol, the producer will tell you drink responsibly. When it comes to gambling too, he will tell you what? You should gamble responsibly. Why is he advising you? He doesn't need to advise you. After all, it is your money. But they know the evil in it, and that is why they are warning you ahead. That you should what? You should be responsible with your actions. You should be responsible. If it is something good, you don't need to tell them. Nobody will tell you to drink responsible if you are buying a bottle of water. So if it is something good, nobody will tell you to do responsibly. But when it is evil, that is where you will see warnings. Even from the manufacturer, from the producer. They will tell you to bet responsibly. You can't tell after making the platform available, you don't need to tell them to bet responsibly. Because you gave them the room to bet. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. The Prophet ﷺ also said in a hadith, he said, وَمَنْ قَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ تَعَالَ أُقَامِرْكَ فَلْيَتَصَدَّقْ. He said, in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said that what? He said, and whoever tells his friend or whoever, his colleagues or whoever with him, that what? Let me gamble with you. Come, let us gamble, let us play. He said what? فَلْيَتَصَدَّقْ. You should give in charity. You should give sadaqah. For you to know the gravity of gambling, you should what? Give sadaqah. So it means what? Gambling is something that you must avoid by all means. You must try as much as possible to avoid it. Today we have so many of them available. We have so many, especially those who watch football. I'm not saying you cannot watch football, but I'm saying you should avoid the gambling. The gambling that has been attached to football today. And sometimes if you look critically, gambling has some elements of shirk in it. Like saying what will happen when you have no knowledge. You are saying this is what will happen. So person will be given a red card. The first team to play the first corner or the throw-in, and so on. So it is even beyond this team will win based on performance. It is now even predicting certain things that will occur within the game. So it is more like you are telling us that you can say what will happen. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one who has ilmul ghaib, is one who has the knowledge of what is hidden, what is unknown. So my brothers and sisters, let us avoid gambling by all means. And the reasons why gambling is discouraged, number one is what? Addiction. People get addicted to gambling. I have seen students, young boys, who to the extent they play, they gamble to the extent they remove their shirt, their uniform, and they gambled with it as well. And that is the reason why I said those who indulge in gambling and those who set up the platform to gamble they are hard-hearted people. There is no pity in that game. No pity. Nobody cares about you. And that is why you must avoid it. Another thing is loss of wealth. When you indulge in gambling, you end up losing what you have worked for all your life. Imagine gambling with your house, with a very valuable property. This is something that is not good. So it makes you lose your wealth. You lose what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with when you gamble. Apart from earning sin, accumulating sins for yourself, you are also losing. So those who indulge in gambling will what? Will lose in this world and in the hereafter, which is not a good thing. So for that reason, you should try as much as possible to avoid gambling. Another thing is what? Distraction from important duties. When you gamble, it distracts you from important duties. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran as well. It distracts you. It doesn't make you. Sometimes you forget that it is time for salah because you are at the betting center or the shop where you want to stake. Sometimes it is even time for salah, but because you are trying to target the timing of the prayer, the game will start in 5 minutes time, and they've called the adhan, and you have to quickly make sure you stake. So you run to where instead of running to the masjid when it is time for salah, you are running towards where you are going to place your bet. This is how gambling distracts you from important things. It distracts some people from work as well. Sometimes people you expect to be somewhere, they go somewhere else because they want to place their bets and so on. So let us try as much as possible to avoid it. It also what? It creates enmity. If I gamble with you, maybe I used my house or my car to stake, and at the end of the day, it became yours because I lost the bet. Will I be happy when I see you riding my car? I will not. I would always wish you an accident. That is what will end up happening. Because I won't be happy. So that is why betting is something, or gambling is something we must avoid. And to back this up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 19. He said, إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون. In this noble verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the implications, how betting, gambling affects us. He said, "Innama yuridu shaitan." He said, certainly a shaitan, devil. He said, what? He wants what? And yuqa bainakumul adawata. He wants what? He wants to only wants to cause animosity and hatred and what? Well, and hatred amongst you. Then he said what? Through what? Fil khamri wal maisir. Through intoxicant and gambling. Two people, when they gamble, sometimes they end up not being friends. So it creates enmity. Then he said what? وَيَصُدَّكُمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَعَنِ الصَّلَاةِ. It also what? It distracts you from the remembrance of Allah and what? And prayer. Then he said what? فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ. So will you not desist? Won't you? So why won't you leave it? Why won't you avoid it? Won't you stop it? Look at all the dangers. It creates enmity between you and your loved ones, you and your friends. It distracts you from remembrance of Allah. It distracts you from salah. It makes you lose your wealth and so on. So why don't you avoid it? For your own benefit. When Allah is telling you to avoid something, it is not because of Him, it is because of you. Because when you lose your wealth, you are the one who will suffer it. It is not Allah. So if He tells you don't gamble, it is for your own sake, not for His own sake. And that is what we must understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and make it easy for us to avoid gambling. Now, what are the things that we can do to avoid falling into the pitfalls of gambling? Number one, first and foremost, we must fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey His commands. We must recognize gambling as what? As haram, and avoid it at all costs. Do not see it as a form of empowerment. Today people see gambling as a form of empowerment. Oh, it is a way, it is one of the means, the way we make money. If not for gambling, I do not. Today we even have people who are punters. Your children are following them on social media. They are forecasting games for them and they are placing bets. They are staking and you don't even know to the extent. Some of your children are addicted already. Some of them will steal from you to gamble. So for that reason, avoid it by all means, and guide your children as well to avoid it by all means. May Allah make it easy for us. Secondly, we must find alternative ways to what? To entertain ourselves. We shouldn't see gambling as a means of entertaining ourselves. We should find alternative ways. Find something that is more interesting. You can indulge in sport without gambling. It is more interesting when you are doing it because of passion and not doing it because of money. Because when you do it because of money, you end up losing money, and you no longer have passion for it. But when you are doing it for the sake of happiness, for the sake of passion, and not because of gambling, because you are going to make money, it gives you peace of mind. When most especially if it is a sport that you like, it is something that you like and you do with your loved ones, it creates love among you. But when it is gambling, when you gamble with them, it creates an enmity and animosity. So we must avoid it. Thirdly, we must support those that are struggling with gambling. Some people amongst us are struggling with gambling. They are finding it difficult. They want to leave it, but they are finding it difficult to leave. Do not pass takfir on them. Do not say they are kafir. Do not say they are kafir. Nobody is kafir because it's gambling. What you should tell them is that what they are doing is what? Is sinful. It is bad. Try as much as possible to admonish them. Try as much as possible to show them the right thing. Try as much as possible to remind them of the warnings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding gambling. But do not tell them that they are kafir. In conclusion, let us try as much as possible as believers to follow the teachings of the Quran, follow the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and follow the teachings of our noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And let us try as much as possible to be good ambassadors of Islam wherever we find ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to accept our dua and ease our affairs, increase us in iman and make us better Muslims. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على آلائه ونعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون قوموا إلى الصلاة يرحمكم الله.